Welcome back to the 6K Sports Sedan and Wagon Challenge presented by Continental Tire. Today we are going to wrap up the rear end here. As you guys just saw, we did a bunch of prepping, and for the last final thing is we primed the area with a bunch of this Easy Coat SCM paint, which is the OEM primer color. I chose tan. I figured, you know what, that's not a bad idea. In hindsight though, what I should have done is chosen a color of blue. Because you know what, if you get a little bit of overspray, as you can see, this is kind of amateurish, you get a bit of overspray, blue would be the way to go rather than this tan color. Nevertheless, so now we just have to let this dry. Then what we're gonna do is come in and scuff it again, and then we can start putting on the seam sealer. Oh, by the way, check out my new mask. I was like having to double and triple up on the respirator, some goggles, and like the face shield in the previous episode, and I thought, you know what? I'll go pick one of these things up. It's not particularly cheap, but I think it's well worth it, and it has a peel here, so after I'm done painting, I can peel this top layer off and then put a new one on, and that means this is clean every time. So if you're doing this kind of work, or you want, like, if you're doing grinding, I think this is certainly a worthwhile mask to invest into. This is our Proform urethane sealer, PPF 224 for those of you that are interested, and this is going to be critical to get into all of our holes, like all these welds that I did here. This is the thing that's going to cover this up, seal it, and ensure that there's no moisture that gets in. At the same time, causing giving more rigidity and giving strength to it as well, because this does dry, not hard per se, but something's wrong here, DP. This is not working. I thought we cut the hole open here. I think this stuff is just so thick, and I've got such a small little hole here that, look at it, it's just coming out super slow, and I was pushing on it really, really hard. I don't want to cut this yet. I will cut it to a larger opening, but I really wanted to see this seam in here. With this little nozzle right now, I can really just like jam it in there. I think that's oh man, it's tough to push out, but it's a good idea. So you can see I've got a nice little pass in here. I'm gonna take my finger right now and try to like squeeze it in there.
Oh, the plumber's technique, eh?
Oh yeah. Now I'm gonna do another pass. I've cut this open, and I'll get a little bit more. You can see, especially in this area here. Oh yeah, that's much better with that nozzle. Hole bigger, look at that. That's working like a champ. So if you've noticed on this car, for example, the OEM seam sealer kind of has a brush-on look to it. So I'm coming in with the brush here and just doing the same thing.
Is this a concourse restoration,
Oh,
Peter?
yeah,
Going for that
man.
OEM
Oh, yeah. Well,
urethane
you know,
look? My God, man.
I figured I've got to do it. I've got to do it.
Listen, we got a date with the dyno on the racetrack. You're wasting time with brushing urethane?
No, and you know what? It works better this way anyways, because with the finger, I found I was like pushing too hard. Your finger's too round, and with the brush, it's like kind of perfect, and you can make Picasso-like strokes in here.
It does look good. It does look good.
Look at that, my goodness. So it's the same procedure up here as it was down below. I think I found the proper technique, and that is to use a new brush every time, but I'm just not anal enough for that, because once the seam sealer starts sticking to the brushes, I find it doesn't necessarily kind of have the same finish. These little spots here, I'm gonna have to go
no.
back over.
Oh,
I'm
no,
gonna have to,
DP.
DP.
Make those spots
I'm
perfect.
gonna have to, but I don't want to touch it yet. Right now, it's looking really good here. So that is seam sealing 101. I'm by no means a professional, but as you saw, it's not really difficult. You just lay it down, wipe it on with your finger or a brush like I did, and now we need to let this cure, I think, for about an hour or so, and then we can come in with a coat of paint here. So the seam sealer has now dried. It's time to spray this area, the underside here, with some undercoating. And I've got two products here, our spray-on DEI Boom Mat and our spray-on Worth High Body underbody sealant. So I wasn't sure which one I was gonna use, and I did a quick test piece on this scrap piece of metal, and you can see on this side is the Worth product, and this is the DEI Boom Mat, and just the Boom Mat has such a nicer finish. It seems more consistent. It's like tougher to the fingernail, where over here, this is more rubberized, and you can see it just like built up these little bubbles, air pockets.
Yeah,
So
weird pimply finish.
yeah, I'm certainly going with the DEI Boom Mat, and we've had great success with this product. And really, this is going to eliminate a lot of the sound that we have here, and at the same time protect it from moisture. So it's win-win. It's also paintable, so we will paint this afterwards. It's a little stinky in here, but the job is now done. It's looking good. I'm sure some of you are going to ask, what am I using for this cool little trigger that I have to put on spray cans? This is a 3M one. I don't actually think they make these anymore from 3M, but I'll put a link in the description to the Amazon ones that work just as well from the reviews that I've read. And anything else in this video that you guys are looking for, there will be links in the description. It is now on to painting the inside, and we're not putting that rubber guard on here. What I'm just gonna do is lay down a color match paint. This is a base coat, so it's not gonna have that shine of the outside like you would with a clear, which I hope matches the inside, but we'll see in a second. Color match looks to be pretty good, and overall I'm happy with it. I think if I had to do it again, what I would have done is just put a little bit more of that Boom Mat on, just like maybe 2 or 3 coats to build it up a little bit more. So now the next thing we're going to do is add a bit of DEI Boom Mat just to further isolate any noises in here. You can see I just did a slight amount of trimming up in this area, and as the box suggests, you only need to use 25 to 50% coverage of this stuff for optimal performance, but I am going full tilt on this because I feel like you can't have enough sound deadening and vibration control in the back here, especially the sound deadening, because we do have an air pump coming here for the rear suspension, and that thing does make noise. Even though it's isolated, I can sometimes still hear it, so the more of this, I think, the better. I do have this fancy little roller here, which helps the application process, which I think I'm gonna use, but oh man. What I don't love is the marks, DP. Is that gonna bounce back?
From the roller?
Yeah.
I don't know, good question. That's a DEI roller, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if it marks it up a little bit.
I guess not. Once again, I'm just being a little anal here with it. So it is sticking really nicely. It conforms to the shape. You can see if I use my hand here. Yeah, it tucks down really, really nicely. Boom Mat is all in place, and the roller is the way to go, even though it leaves a couple of minor little marks. But what it does is it kind of like flattens it out and pushes it down much better than your hand in terms of like evenness. So now with that being done, we need to figure out how to get a battery in here and that air pump. And what I think I'm going to do for the battery is I'm actually going to separate this M5 sedan like rear tray. The battery lives in here, and this is actually 2 pieces, you can see. All right, the heat gun seems to be working well here. Look at this, it is separating this stuff. It's coming off quite nicely. It does make a mess, so you really got to be careful. You can see it just, oh. There we go, look at that. Oh man, I have to keep the foam on that side, I think. Whoa, look at that, EP.
Whew, that's a sticky mess, but...
That is a sticky mess, but look at that. This may work out well. Let me just clean this up and then let's try fitting it in there. It's certainly a press fit here. I feel like, man, what I should have done is measured the width of this and then made sure I left enough space when I was building the compartment here, because this thing is just like super tight. I feel like it's slowly going down, but I'm not sure. I think it's already starting to bow a little bit here. I may try to like relieve it on the sides a little bit more and then try to slide it into place. You can see I've taken off a little bit of material here, but goodness, I was hoping this would work, but we may have to look at another alternative. Well, I think I'm gonna have to admit defeat on using this tray. I actually cut it in half thinking maybe I'll be able to use the bottom of this and then figure out a way to secure the battery onto here, but this is too wide for this area. No way to put it. Like it would be raised. You can't really push it down flush. So I think I'm going to abort it. As you can see, I put this piece up here thinking, you know, maybe if I wanted to cover it, then that could work. But really what I think we need to do is go out and just buy a tray and then figure out how to hard mount the tray onto that. And then get ourselves an AGM battery. The one I have right now, this guy here, is not an AGM. I did look, there's a couple Odyssey and Die Hard ones out there that we can source, and then we can get a tray and it'll drop. I think we got to spin it around this way. It'll drop in as such in this area here. So I think we're gonna have to take a pause on fitting this up, but what we can do is fit up the air compressor for the airbags and start putting some of this stuff back together. So here is our pump, and here is the enclosure that it's in. So I got to figure out how to mount this now in here as such. I've just checked the wires and I think everything's going to reach. As you can see here, we do have a stud, and I really don't want to drill into the floor. So I don't want to have to pass bolts through here. I think it's going to look kind of cheap, but we do have this nice little crossbar right now with this stud. So I'm going to start off by drilling a hole through here. Now in order to find the point where I need to drill, I'm going to go like this, put a bunch of green paint off the paint marker, line this up as such, give it a little mark like that, and there you go. We'll drill our hole. So now that I've drilled this hole, you can see this plate is going to sit as such. And the next step for me here is going to be to put a riv nut right in here. For those of you that haven't seen this before, this is a rivet nut, more commonly known as a riv nut. And what it allows you to do is it's going to secure itself in this metal here. And then now it's going to allow me to put a bolt into it. Now that it's in, all I'm going to do is squeeze up. There it is. And that's in place now. And now we have ourselves a secured spot for a bolt, much like this, except it's wherever you want. So it's really a super cool tool. I find it very useful for any time you're doing something like this or any custom fabrication work where you don't want to always use a nut and bolt. So I'm just welding some nuts onto this plate so we have a pass-through for our bolts, which I'll show you in a second. But a curious thing happened here. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but there is almost like a web-like substance that is built up on this. Look at the back side. I don't know what this is, whether this is like a coating or what, but it's just the weirdest thing. I've never seen this. If you want to post in the comments, let me know. Like you can see it here. It's just so odd. It's like, I guess it's a film. I'm thinking it might have been zinc coated or something like that. I did clean the one side off, but I didn't clean the back side, the underneath side here, so maybe that's what caused it. Nevertheless, let me know in the comments. I'm super curious to see what, or for you guys to let me know what that is, because I've never seen that happen before.
I'm pretty sure I know what it is, Pete. This
What's
is
that?
the evil of BMW engineers just sort of oozing out of the metal. You've released the evil.
It's the stranger things of the underworld is coming out
Exactly.
here. So the basic principle now that I've come up with is this teeters a lot. And if we put these bolts through now on the corners, and then what I'm gonna do is use a rubber stopper as such on the ground, it's going to act as a way to just stabilize this whole thing. With everything in place, all these bolts secured, you can see this thing is not going anywhere. And it is very, very good. I'm pumped about this. Are you guys still with me? I know this has been a lengthy process and so much to do, but we are pretty much there before we can put the whole trunk back together. The last thing we have to do is replace the positive battery cable, and that is because the wagon one, as you can see, ran to here. So to move this over here, it just does not have the length. Thankfully, Glenn, who supplied me with that corner piece, also gave me an M5 positive battery cable, and this one should run where it needs to go. In the M5, what it does is it will run up to here and then make a left turn like as such and go to the battery right here. With the carpet up, we can see the routing here is pretty simple. I'll just have to remove a couple of nuts. Unfortunately here, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work. Whoops. Because we have this air vent that of course this runs underneath. There it is. Oh man. All right, that wasn't terrible. It still is never fun.
Can you just show
working
the
in here.
world though what lives under the carpet in here?
Well,
Like, this is crazy.
There's some stuff.
There's a whole bunch of
There's some
plates and
foam.
vents and foam and
This is for your seatbelt, that little retractor. There's some ground wires right here. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff underneath here. So,
you know what's underneath the carpet in my Lexus, PT?
mothballs?
Nothing but excellence and denture cream.
Well, the internet was right because that certainly does fit. It's the perfect length, which is really nice. Now, the negative terminal here is also too short. On the wagon, it was in there, and on the M5, what you're using is a post that was mounted on the frame rail here, but obviously that's not going to work. So I do have an idea for this. The plan here is to reuse the terminals and replace the wire here with a longer one that I found in the scrap pile. Now, the question that really lies here is whether the Dremel tool that I have right here is going to produce enough heat to get this hot enough, which I think it should, so that it'll just come right out. You guys can watch this unfold here. I'll turn it your way and see if we can get enough heat into this thing right here.
So that's soldered in, I guess?
I think so, yeah. So that guy was taking way too long. This is gonna get a lot more heat into this quickly. But wow, I'm surprised. I thought this would like instantly
Doesn't seem to be doing much, does
come up and pull itself out, like it would melt the solder, but that does not seem to be the case. Even with this guy right now, like I'm putting a bunch of heat into this.
The Germans have over-engineered their grounding cables, Peter.
Yes.
Now is the time we dance, mon sprockets.
Sprockets. Sprockets.
Well, this is not going to plan. Apparently, we have some super solder here that I can't seem to get enough heat into. Like, look at this thing. We could try to drill this out, which, you know what, at this point, we might as well try. I really want to use this terminal. I don't know why. I did, because we should just go buy a new one, but I feel like we really want to use this, so we're going to try to get this done. Okay, here we go. I mean, it should, yes, it is drilling through very easily. Good on whoever designed this thing. Like, this is fused together. This was not meant to come apart. So the next step in our overly complicated negative terminal wire is I'm going to load this side, the new wire, longer one, with a bunch of solder here, and then I'm going to try to stick it into the terminal there. See, that this is the hard part, is actually getting this to fuse now with this terminal. There it goes. It is actually sucking it in now. So I've probably got this properly hot. The the struggle is, you see this ooze coming out. I'm not sure what that is. I suspect it might be some coating on the wire. I don't know. Is this possible? Did this work?
It seems to have.
Wow.
Shocking.
Look at that. We did something. We made a cable. Here's the cable installed, and I think I nailed it on the length. As you can see, it's gonna route and hook up just like that. You can hear the compressor coming on.
Yeah.
So man, I think we are officially done in the trunk area, and a ton of work went into this, but I'm super happy with it. To the person that wouldn't know, I think they'd look at this and be like, oh, it looks pretty OEM. So unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to wrap it there, guys, because we are out of time once again. And I do owe you guys a start with the mufflers, which are missing right now. So I do need to install those. We'll get to that in the next episode. So as always, thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, certainly think about subscribing. Make sure to hit that notification bell and give me a million thumbs up if you can. Crazy, it looks like it's one piece. It's because it's so soldered, but.
I think they welded it in there.
Yeah, like, look at it in there. I thought maybe it would fall apart, but it doesn't. Oh, man.